Shamrock v Village will be the final. Shamrocks had to grind it out with a man down, and Owen Cody didn't hurl at all. Can't see them being beaten now. He was fairly good there in the last 5 minutes, wasn't he?
He was good when he was needed. Now he was quiet. He was quiet probably by his standards up until that point. Now he would have been quiet enough before then. But he like a lot of their bigger names, and TJ and Adrian Mullen and even Colin Fennelly with a play there near the end. They came good when they were needed most.
Yeah, and we'll go to that now. So just to read out all the different results in the quarterfinals, and we'll come to Ballyhale last. Mulnavat 210, O'Loughlin Gales 18 points. So obviously O'Loughlin's are through. Glenmore 17 points, Bennett's Bridge 314, and Nicky Brennan on Thursday he'd sort of tipped up Bennett's Bridge for the county title.
Who would you tip up again?
Yeah, Dixborough. How'd that work out? They should have won the game. They should have, which we'll come to in a second. James Stevens, who I think you tipped up to win the county title, didn't you?
No, O'Loughlin's. No, O'Loughlin's.
Oh, you went to O'Loughlin, sorry. 118 to 15 points win over Greg Ballycallan. And Ballyhale Shamrocks, they just will not be denied. 120 to 21 points. Now, all three of us said that they wouldn't win the county title this year, just basically because of who they were missing. And they even went down to 14 men with Paddy Deegan sent off. And somehow, and it was the star men who eventually found a way. The dark arts were employed at the very end, and you know what? We'd have done it ourselves. But how did Dixborough throw this away? Because they did throw it away. They had so many chances late on and just got a bit of white line fever.
There was so much to digest in this game. It's one of the best club championship games I've been at in a while, particularly within the one county. Like you might get, a Munster final or a Leinster final or Leinster semi-final. It's a cracker, but thought the standard was incredibly high. Ballyhale in the first minute and a half had Owen Cody, Colin Fennelly, TJ Reid and Adrian Mullen all standing inside the 21. So the four of them were all inside the borough at 21, and it was a bit of a statement of intent. I think Adrian Mullen flashed over what would have been a spectacular goal after about 15 seconds. Niall Shortall had a goal chance then about a minute later. But in fairness to Dixborough, they were playing short, trying to work the ball out in direct polar opposite to Ballyhale, who were trucking it like long as anything. And I suppose when you have good ball winners, you can do that. But the Borough were working it through the lines. Like when Mullen got that goal before half-time, Colin Fennelly went down after about 12, 13 minutes. He'd a calf heavily strapped before the game. He definitely tweaked it again. But he stayed on the pitch. Could have taken a point just before the break. Played through Mullen. Lovely pass over the top. Brilliant goal. And you're kind of thinking, Ballyhale are 5 up here. Like, you'd imagine they're going to see it out from here. And the Borough have taken maybe too many shots to the stomach. But the Borough absolutely flew back. They ended up, 113 to 19 points up after 46 minutes. Andy Gaffney, who was brilliant on the freeze, apart from one bad wide, he was brilliant on the freeze outside of that. So they had themselves in a winning position. Again, in the 53rd minute, they were 3 up again, 114 to 20. And Paddy Mullen was off the pitch after, kind of a wild swipe underneath the stand, very reminiscent of last year's county final, actually, and very reminiscent of last year's county final as well. Ballyhale just seemed to find another gear with 14 men. And you'd have to praise Ballyhale, something shocking, for standing up when the need was greatest. And a lot of lads taking a lot of kind of weight on their shoulders and just delivering. There's something else, and everyone just says just chatting all sorts of different boys after, chatting to Corcoran's father, actually, Killian and Dara Corcoran's father. He says you'll have good crack chatting on the YouTube tomorrow. So I give that man a shout out. I was chatting him on the pitch after, but everyone was just saying that you never have the Shamrocks bet, and you don't. But Clara were in a superb position, like an outstanding position to see it out, and they just couldn't see it out. Like from, what are we looking here? From Harry Shine's point in the 43rd minute, they hit 3 points thereafter in about 22 minutes with an extra man for nearly the whole duration as well, which is just not good enough when you get yourself in that position.
So weren't there something like 20 points to 114 ahead late on, yeah?
Yeah,
something like that. So let's say, they got 1 point from then on. How many missed opportunities? Do you have your stats there? How many missed opportunities did they have amid getting that last point?
Sometimes I lose track of the wides when I get a bit too excited in a game, but there was a bad Liam Moore wide in the 62nd minute that would have put them one ahead.
Was that centre forward?
Yeah, who was dangerous. Who was dangerous in the second half. In fairness to him,
but he had a man coming off the shoulder, should have popped it. But to me, it was partly it was down to decision making. And like, to be fair though, you could say one or two of the Ballyhale scores, they were like, they'd have been ridiculous shots for anyone other than TJ Reid taking a free from his own 55, we'll say, give or take, on the sideline. Was it Owen Cody scoring from near the sideline? Adrian Mullen scoring from, it's just a skill deficit too, even though Dicksboro are very good. Just like because Ballyhale have so many geniuses, it's hard to account for it.
But like Ballyhale looked like they were on their last legs in that last 15 minutes. Like they're missing, who are they missing from last year's All-Ireland final? Joey Holden, Brian Cody, Ronan Corcoran, Joey Cuddy, and Darren Mullen. That's 5 of the 17 lads that played in an All-Ireland final in January. And like,
they never had a massive panel either in recent times in terms of who they use.
Yeah, very like Thomas's, like Dave O'Connor's would always say, Thomas's have 17, maybe 18. So you're going deep into your reserves. Owen Reid, who probably hadn't seen much game time last year when they were maybe going better, kind of coming on near the end. And a couple of other guys kind of coming in as well. Worryingly for them, like Colin Fennelly, who's based in Dubai and flew back to Dubai last night, like I'd be amazed if he was fit to play a semi-final. I'd be amazed if he was fit. Just he looked in serious distress. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if he missed the semi-final, and maybe if they win the semi-final, he might be back for the final. But their ability to find a way is it's extraordinary, really. Because if you could bottle that, like every team in the country wants that. When the finishing line is there, certain teams stick out the chest and absolutely accelerate towards it. Others in horse race and parlance take a little bit of a pull and maybe start thinking a bit too much. And like you'd worry for the borough, like they won the county title in 17, and like I don't know if they won a real kind of cut and thrust championship knockout game since then, really. And that's kind of worrying because it was all there for them yesterday. It looked like the stars were aligning, and even Andy Gaffney's free at the end. Lee Moore was pulled down. Dara Mason pulled him down. Like from a defensive point of view, you'd have to say he was brilliantly pulled down just before going inside the penalty area. And this is Andy Gaffney's free then at the end. I think Dean Mason saved that. TJ was on the line as well. Rebound bounced back into a Ballyhale hand, and the game was over. But
I'm not entirely sure if that wasn't TJ. Is that TJ on the far side, on the right?
It was.
Who's the defender behind?
No, it's TJ. Right. Yeah, it could well have been TJ. Nisha Waldron, who was there, thought it was TJ, and
I think that's TJ.
I thought it was Dean Mason. It could have been a combination of the two. But even like a minute before that, TJ got a ball on the 45 and just sprinted the length of the field, won a free, and then put it over. And I think, lads often say, "Oh, look at the amount of frees beside his name." Yeah, but geez, he doesn't miss too many. And even the sideline he put over in the second half. Some extraordinary scores. Now they were hanging on. They were hanging on. But to me, that could be the biggest test they'll get in Kilkenny, and they've come through it. So they're going to be even harder beaten from here on in.
Yeah, who was the most impressive player on the pitch for you? Because I see different comments talking about Adrian Mullen, Dara Corcoran, very good. Colin Fennelly obviously leading the line. Owen Cody with a couple of unreal scores later on. Who was the main man?
Yeah, probably Adrian Mullen. He nearly had that goal after 15 seconds. He got a fair bit of attention. He did well. Like he hit a shoulder at one stage that was a bit high. That could have been borderline. I actually don't think he got a yellow. I think they might have yellow carded the wrong player in that instance. But Dicksboro did their best to rile him up now. Like to me now, it looked like they really went after him. There was a couple of times when he was rolling around with someone on the ground, and the player in question would not let go of his legs. Like would literally not let go of him, and it was like they're just wanting something to happen. That's what it looked like to me. Anyway, that's just I had a great vantage point from the stand, but he didn't really fall into that trap. He ended up at 1-4, got some brilliant scores. The goal before halftime was crucial as well. He's so powerful, isn't he? He's so powerful with and without the ball. I'd probably give it to Mullen. Dara Corcoran was solid at fullback. Evelyn Shefflin had made a few mistakes in the second half, trying to carry a lot of ball, but I thought he was good in the second half as well. They negated Richie Reid completely in the second half, and that was how the Borough got a lot of joy. As I said, Andy Gaffney was very good. Killian Buckley was good in that kind of half-forward role. Lee Moore was dangerous in the second half. Andy Gaffney was their main man. But they'll be scratching their heads this morning, wondering how they didn't see it out.
Yeah, so it will be James Stephens against Ballyhale Shamrocks in the semi-final in one of them, and O'Loughlin Gales against Bennett's Bridge in the other one. Are you hearing much about the other quarterfinals and how they went? Bennett's Bridge, like the Frank the Form that we've been talking about.
Yeah, Bennett's Bridge, 3-14 to 17 points winners over Glenmore. Didn't hear too much about that, but everyone seems to think that the Bridge are the dark horses coming into the semi-final. They'll play O'Loughlin's, who were lucky enough to come out with their championship hopes intact against Mullinavat. That finished 18 points to 210. Mullinavat have been a bit of a bogey team to them, so he's going to have
Vegas. Come on now, call them the proper name.
Vegas, yeah. That's some opportunity for the two of them. Bridge are in the final in 19, I think. O'Loughlin's are in the final in 2021, I think, under Andy Comerford. So that's going to be a fascinating semi-final and a great opportunity. I was in for the Village in Greg Ballycallan as well, and like it was just chalk and cheese between that and the Ballyhale game. Like there were like no parallels or comparisons that you could make. Village hurled fairly old school, I'd say. They're missing like of the names that we would know traditionally down through the years. Jackie's obviously playing junior, him and Owen Lark, and even David Walton, three of them are playing junior. Matt Root is retired. Like there's not too many. Now you go down through the names. Luke Scanlon finished with 5 points. He was kind of the difference, really. I don't see him getting on loose ball like that against Ballyhale. William Spencer good around the middle of the field. Niall Brazel was decent at centre back. Owen Gilfoyle got into it maybe in the last 15 or 20 minutes, and Ross Whelan was decent enough. But to me, it just looks like there's a serious class deficit going into that semi-final. But you have Brian Cody going up against TJ, Colin Fenley. Colin's maybe Kilkenny career finished a bit earlier than a lot of people would have liked it to. Maybe that was to do with the manager. I'm not sure or not, but I'm sure he'll be doing everything possible to get back for that semi-final.
Look at you stirring the pot there and trying to keep a straight face.
But just based on yesterday, I do expect the Village to be better than they were yesterday, and they conceded 10 goals in their previous 2 games coming into yesterday. But the first half, like the centre of their defence was like a landing strip at different stages. Greg Ballycallan just couldn't take advantage of it. Jesse Roberts is very
machines, aren't they?
They are, yeah. And like you'd imagine, if they do end up playing Ballyhale, you're going to need maybe 3 or 4 goals. And in Liam Blanchfield, they have a weapon that can get those type of goals. In fairness, he's only back in the country about 4 or 5 weeks from Australia, but he's carrying a huge threat for them. I'm kind of the same as you, and even like Nicky on last week's show. You're kind of just thinking something in the back of your head is saying Ballyhale can't win again with all these players missing. But I don't know if they faced their toughest test already. I think if they're going to be taken down from here on in, it'll be O'Loughlin's in a county final.
Yeah, and with Nicky confirmed to us the other day that their second team actually had to give a walkover in, I'm not entirely sure which tier they're in, but having to give a walkover, that shows you how stretched they are. But I suppose when they have the amount of class players they have, you're always going to have an opportunity of staying in a game. Joe Butler says, we, as in O'Loughlin Gales, just got over the line. Heavy ground does not suit us. We will give it our best against the Bridge, but don't talk us up, Michael.
Too late for that.
Yeah, Richard Hogan says 3 out of 3 for the Village this weekend. Minor, senior and junior. So, yeah, fair enough. Like all these city teams can keep racking up the titles. We know that Dixborough have won loads of underage titles over the years, but got to convert them to senior at some stage. Do we need to see the penalty sin bin in club hurling? Again, like I said, rugby tackle, like what you saw at the weekend, it doesn't happen unless it's close to goal, unless the team is going for goal. So as far as I'm concerned, to stop teams doing it a little bit further out here, there and everywhere, rugby tackle like that is a penalty no matter where on the pitch. Ballyhale were trying to stop a goal, punish them for doing it by giving the team a goal opportunity. This is nothing against Ballyhale. I've said it for the last couple of years. This should happen no matter what teams are involved. Until
something like that is brought in, you're just going to continue to see it happening. That's just the nature of it. And from the Borough's point of view as well, it was a lot of pressure on Andy Gaffney. And it's very difficult to score 21 with 5 lads on the line now when you can't go in past the 21. But like Ballyhale had no shot back had that ended up in the net. Do you know what I mean? That's how you beat champions. Don't give them a chance to punch you back. Knock them out with the last punch. And that's why everyone in the press box was just standing up. Like I was standing up for the last 20 minutes watching it. I just couldn't. It was too exciting nearly to sit down. And I've said it to you before. This happened to me the odd time because I'm a bit of a fruitcake. Like I couldn't work for about half an hour after the game because I was too excited. Like so, I just had to get in my car and drive and pull in somewhere when I calmed down a small bit.
Well, no, you were too excited to write a few words, but you felt it was safe to get behind the wheel of a car.
Yeah. Too much concentration required like that. No. Different type. I just, do you ever have that sometimes when you're writing where you're just like, there's too many things going on in your head and you're better off just going off and doing something else for half an hour and coming back. That's me after a big game.
Yeah, you need to compose yourself a little bit. We'll go on to the Antrim semi-finals over the weekend. So Lochgiel sensationally beat 5 in a row chasing Dunloy. That was 121 to 13 points. So it wasn't really all that close. I mean, to be fair,
that was a hammering, Shane. It was a hammering.
11 points in it for a finish. And Dunloy started okay, but then from what I saw, Paul Boyle, who was wearing 14 but seemed to be playing more out in the half-forward line, he was brilliant, scored 1-3. His direct running really seemed to bother Dunloy. And the funny thing is, Dunloy have a load of brilliant athletes. No wonder they got to the county football final. And I'd say they'll be looking to burst every football in the county after this. So, is this part of the reason that they were looking a little bit leggy? Because, they're putting the extra effort into the football. And I think it's only about half their panel from hurling plays football. But still, it's going to take something out of you. Well,
I tell you, Shane, you've played a bit of football as well. If you're sore for 3 days after a hurling match, you'll be sore for 6 days after a football match. The ground you cover, the amount of if you're playing, yeah, if you're tracking men and doing whatever in football, that's why I always think providing it doesn't impinge too much, I think playing football is brilliant for any hurler. Just because I think athletically and aerobically it's brilliant, and you go into tackles that you mightn't go into in a hurling match. But we flagged it on Thursday's show. Would it have any effect physically on them? Would they be leggy? You saw more of the game than I did. It looked like they were clearly leggy. Did Keelan Malloy play?
Yeah, and he got a couple of points, but he wasn't himself.
That's the ankle injury probably picked up playing football. Do you know what I mean? Which is far from ideal. And it's amazing how the narrative changes. It was a great story, but Dunloy getting to the football final, and they were potentially going to play Schlocknail in 2 games. And now, as you say, I'd say football could be outlawed up there because they have a chance to do 5 in a row. Look at it this way, Shane. Ballyhale are not as good as they were. They're still good. But outside of Ballygunner then and maybe Na Piarsaigh, Dunloy would have seen it as a great opportunity potentially to win Ulster, win Antrim, win Ulster, maybe get back to an All-Ireland final and redeem themselves. And now they're sitting on their hands for the winter.
Yeah, they're the only of the 4 All-Ireland semi-finalists from last year that are gone, because Thomas's are still there, so are Ballygunner, and so are Ballyhale Shamrocks, obviously.
While I have you, we talked about this before. There's 1 gone. How many of the 3 from last year that are still in it, how many of them will be there come All-Ireland semi-final time? I think there'll only be 1.
You think that Ballygunner are going to be the only one?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, let me just think about this for a second, because in the Galway Championship, I just want to look at the semi-final draw again. I do have it here somewhere. Yeah, so Sarsfield's against St. Thomas's. Even though Davy Burke, obviously, the cruciate and all that kind of stuff, I still reckon Thomas will get through there. I think Loughrea might pip them in the final. Loughrea are against Turlough. That could go either way, but I think if Loughrea get to the final, they could pip them. Right. So I'm looking at, we've a lot to talk about before we really get to, I suppose, dissect this, but I think there's a chance that Thurles get to Munster and give Ballygunner, who they've always had games that have been a puck of a ball between them. I think there's a chance they give them a right game. And then Na Piarsaigh would be my tip at the moment from Limerick. I think it'd be tough to pick from between the 3 of those. You'd still give Ballygunner the nod, of course. Will they get through?
Ballygunner will win Munster.
Ballygunner. Yeah, okay, look, fair enough, but I don't think they'll do it easy. As in, if Ballyhale win Kilkenny, who's going to stop them in Leinster? Nobody now, especially that Kilmacud Crokes are the most seasoned team left in Dublin. And who else? Right, so what counties are really going to push Ballyhale, assuming they get there in Leinster?
Oh, no, I'd agree, yeah. I'd agree. I'm not 100% sure who's going to win Offaly, and we'll go into that in a while. Naas gave him a good game last year. Maybe Naas are an outside chance. But the passage that Ballyhale have, should they get out, I think it's fascinating. I do, but I think Ballygunner will be the only one left.
Well, but you think that Ballyhale are going to come up short within the county? If they got through, do you think that they'd win Leinster?
If they got through, I think they would, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I still think Do you know, I'm after taking my medicine now. I said that Dixborough would win the county title. I've been made look like an ape. And I'm now all in on Ballyhale. It's a bit like actually...
This is the Drake curse. They're gonna
Yeah.
be going absolutely mad down there.
And like, this is like after the first group game, I saw Kildangan beat Thurles up and down the field, whereas now I'm all in on Thurles, right? So it's you know, a couple of games can change everything.
Folks,
anyway,
you don't want to have the same going all in on you. You're in big trouble.
Yeah. So Lochgiel, to be fair to them, like, this was brilliant. Like, they've been bullied by Cushendall only 3 weeks ago, but what a turnaround. Like, the intensity, the hard running, their first touch was absolutely class. So impressive. Paul Boyle with 1-3. Like, there's a Shan on either team. There's a Shan Elliott on the Dunloy side, Seann, and there's a Shan McGrath on the other side, Shan. So I think the spelling of these names was basically so that the Brits back in the day couldn't be pronouncing the name a different way, you know, and forcing them to, you know, not say Sean or you know, whatever it was, something to do with that anyway. So it was sort of like a phonetic, it's to force them to pronounce it. 1-3 along with Boyles. Sorry, McGrath scored 6 along with Boyles 1-3. James time has been very good. He scored 4. Ryan McKee was brilliant at midfield and scored 3. They're looking for their 21st county title, and they're the record holders. I think Cushendall are next with 14, but Lochgiel haven't won it since 2016. And just to go through a couple of other things with Dunloy, their full back line was left exposed a bit too often. Maybe that's down to being leggy. First touch was off, dropping the ball. You know, Kobe Cunningham and Sean Elliott were good, but otherwise not great. And then Cushendall, they fairly battered Ballycastle for a finish. I think it was 4-15 to 1-9. Terrible conditions. There was water on the pitch, the whole lot. But there's a young corner forward, really, after stepping up this year for Cushendall, Joseph or Joey McLaughlin. He scored a hat-trick of goals here. Neil McManus, who's been going forever, he scored a goal as well. But to be fair, Ballycastle were very good for long spells. And this is without Neil McCauley and Kieran Clark, who have both worn the Antrim jersey in recent years. They got a goal early doors from Caelan O'Connor, and they were looking all right, even though they were playing into. But once Cushendall comes on the board, they started to turn the screw. Owen Campbell really started to take over for Cushendall. And it was just one of those things where the gap continued to widen. Like, Ballycastle have come a decent way this year, but Cushendall against Lochgiel in the final. Cushendall haven't won it since 2018. Like, you'd almost forget that. But Cushendall against Lochgiel, Cushendall hammered them 3 weeks ago. But like, we've seen this before, wasn't it? Was it St. Anne's a few years ago who got beaten by somebody by 30-odd points in the Wexford Championship in the group stage? St. Martin's, wasn't it?
I think it was Martin's, beat them in the semi-final, yeah.
Beat them in the semi-final. So, you know, these things can change. Apparently, I'm freezing. I'm actually warming up.
A small bit. You might kick yourself out and bring yourself back in, and I'll just keep the show on the road for a minute. I'm going to bring Shane on in a minute just to chat about the 2 Tipperary Senior Hurling Championship semi-finals. So on Saturday evening, it was Thurles Sarsfields 122, Lockmore Castellini 212. Aidan McCormack's goal near the end sealed the deal for Thurles. And the other semi-final yesterday, Kildangan put up a big score. Finished Kildangan 230, Tommyvara 221. Just on Saturday night's game, Shane, Dara Stakelum, very impressive for Thurles, finished with 6 points. Is he the sort of player potentially that Liam Cattle could be looking at? I know he's still under 20, I think, but he's definitely a good prospect going forward by the look of it.
First of all, is my picture and sound coming through okay?
Yeah, it seems to be okay now, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if Dara Stakelum is still under 20 or not, but like, he's a really good player. And, you know, I just kind of wish that Conor Stakelum had stayed around Burris Lee and that there was a few of these Stakelum boys coming through for Burris. But yeah, he was excellent. And he's been really good throughout the whole championship. Like I said on Tipcast, which people might have seen a few times, which is with the Nina Guardian and Shane Brophy, I kind of, like, we like to put our neck on the block. We know we're going to be wrong sometimes, and we kind of accept that, which is why we picked who'd win Kilkenny. I said that I thought that Thurles would win this game by about 6 points. They ended up winning it by 7. I'd have had egg on my face if I got it wrong, but we at least like to put the neck on the block, Michael. But just in terms of who did the scoring, Dara Stakelum scored 6. And do you know what? At the start of the year, if you had to tell me that he'd be playing as an inside forward, I'd have said, what? Because he's looked so impressive as maybe a midfielder and, you know, wing forward at times. Play him as an inside forward, he was very, very good. His brother Connor was quite good as well further out the field. Stephen Cahill still popping the scores as well. But Ronan Maher, he was very good. And Lockmore, they just didn't have enough. I mean, Noel McGrath, he did okay at times, but he wasn't 100% fit coming into the game. Kieran Connolly's not long back. Maybe that's a problem too as well, that he couldn't fully show the best of himself. I felt John McGrath, he didn't score from play. Kieran McCormick scored 1-1, including a good goal. Actually, it was very interesting when he was set free for his goal. He was sort of to the left of the penalty area coming in from the 21. And rather than running at the goal and running at the crossbar and getting in on the keeper and popping it past him, it was almost like he was running towards the sideline away from the goal, and he still managed to finish it, so fair play to him. But it was just a game too far for Lockmore. It was just between lads who've been a little bit injured and, you know, lads in and out of the team and a bit of form here and there, and missing John Maher from centre-back and Joey Hennessy from full-back this year. They just came up a little bit short. You know the way we said that Dunloy looked a little bit leggy. Leonard Tobin is saying it here. Lockmore looked a little bit leggy. And again, what's the common denominator? Playing Jewel.
Yeah. Yeah. I suppose it's easy to say that now, but when they were winning games every weekend and winning the two a couple of years ago, it didn't seem to be a problem. You know, it is obviously for Dunloy, I think it's more of an issue because it's not something that they've been doing traditionally down through the years. For Lockmore, they have the same manager and have generally dealt with it really, really well. So we're not bursting all the footballs, and they definitely won't be bursting them in Castellini a lot more anyway, I can tell you that.
No, they certainly won't, but I did feel that they just came up short. They never looked like they were going to win the game.
Personnel-wise, and you named out the likes of John Maher and a few lads that were missing before they started. Do you know what I mean? Like they were down players that they can't really afford to be missing.
Yeah, for sure. And just Thurles have this sort of mean edge to them. And again, Paddy Creedon didn't start this game. He came on briefly as a blood sub, I think it was, probably for Dara Stakem in the first half. He was brought on late there as well. And you'd have to give Paddy Maher so much credit for the way he's led this team. It's his first year as a senior manager, and obviously he has the experience with the county there as well throughout this season, and he stepped away. But he seems to have brought, his own approach of a player as a player in terms of he absolutely horsed into the opposition. And especially the second half of his career, his use of the ball really kind of in the first couple of years, and we were probably all like this. When you get the ball, you're turning, bursting out, head down, fire and thunder. Let's put this thing to the clouds. It's your problem now. But the way his team is coming out here, they're unbelievably physical, but they're fair. And, they're leaving in hits when they can leave in hits, same as any good team does. But they're playing lovely ball up to the forwards. And you're looking at it and thinking, my God, how do you defend this ball going into Dara Stakem? Because he's so fast, quick, nippy, great touch. He'll score from the sideline. There was guys I was watching actually in a Senior 2 game in Dublin over the weekend. Who was his name? Neil Hogan. I have the programme there for Castleknock. It's like he could only score points from the sideline, more or less. Because he's just, the way some players, they have a little sweet spot that they like on the pitch, which might be an odd place for anyone else, but they were able to score from there. But you couldn't but give credit to Thurles. Aidan McCormick, he'd had a few misses this game and in previous games, but he ended up getting 1-2 from play for a finish. And yeah, not sure what more to say about it. Just Thurles, last couple of games, they've looked so mean out. They can't but make them heavy favourites, even though Kildangan are obviously going to be in the final too. I think it's their 5th time in 6 years or 6th time in 7 years being there.
Yeah, they've obviously been very, very consistent, and they've been in around that final stages a lot. As said on Thursday's show, I don't think they've won enough for the talent that they have. They're probably playing maybe a bit more consistently coming into it now. Yeah, as you said, a 6th final in 7 years. It's some going, it's some consistency. I didn't see much of this because I was elsewhere. Billy Seymour seems to have continued his rich scoring form. He ended up with 6 from play, 14 overall. 230 is some score in 60 minutes hurling. That is, It's a crazy high score. I don't see there been the colour of that in the county final, particularly with the way Thurles play and how abrasive they are and how in your face they are. Now I'd be making Thurles marginal favourites, but it'd be marginal enough now. What was the win and losing in this game, or who were the main men from a Kildangan point of view?
Yeah, well, look, to be fair, they did pull away a little bit late on. I suppose the red card to Barry Hogan on the second yellow, that's he's going to be back for the final. That kind of presented a bit of an opportunity for Toom, but to be fair, Kildangan just completely rode that out. And if you look at some of the players who played well in the game, I thought Declan McGrath was very good. He's used to the ball, like heads up sort of stuff. Ty Gallagher scored 3 points, just running relentlessly from midfield. Billy Seymour, I mean, he's been in with the county before and then left off it. Last year he went away to America, came back, didn't really make much of an impact with Kildangan. Maybe he was just, you know how you be when you're away for the summer in somewhere like America, you're not going to be training the same way that you would be at home. Let's call a spade a spade. But he looks like a much better player this year. So I'd be surprised if he doesn't get a call into the tip again. Paul Flynn, brilliant. He scored 1-3. Brian Mallochny, who was sacrificed when that red card happened late on, he was good with 1-2. And it was just mad to see an inter-county manager from this year, albeit Darragh Egan has departed from Wexford, coming in. Now, he had a goal scored on him, but, there was a lad in one-on-one, so you can't really blame him at all. But just, it's mad to see an inter-county manager coming into a club match, because has that happened anywhere else? I suppose Conor Laverty.
Yeah, Laverty, but it wouldn't happen much. I think Vinnie Corey was playing still before he was announced as Monaghan manager. I think, but it is a rarity, and particularly to
Raymond
be
Galligan probably playing club.
Yeah, not in around county final stage or something like that now. Darragh's obviously had a huge influence in what's gone on in Kildangan. We'll talk about that game a bit more in a couple of weeks, but they need to get over the line in that one. Like they cannot even consider in any part of their head losing a county final again, and how long of a winter it would be and how miserable it would be. And then all of it, it's a stigma already. It was a stigma to get their one on the board in 2020. And then obviously they haven't been able to get another one on the board since. And, time waits for no man, and it waits for no team as well. You have to get titles on the board when the talent is there, and it's there at the minute. It won't always be there, but it's there at the minute. And I think that sets up a really tasty final.
Yeah. Now, to be fair to Tumivara, they've had an excellent season, because nobody was looking at them getting to a county semi-final when the draw was made. But I suppose they did have somewhat a favourable group. But they did look a little bit light across the pitch. I mean, size-wise, Kildangan just seemed to be that bit more filled out. Like, you look at some of the pigs, and I mean this in a positive way, across the Kildangan team. James Quigley, David Sweeney's well filled out. Joe Gallagher's a pig. Sean Hayes is a big man.
I hope they take that as the compliment that it is.
Yeah, it is, of course. And Paul Flynn, he's always so effective for Kildangan. He popped up at 1-3. Whereas Tumivara had size profile-wise, they have a few, but they had a couple of lads who were a little bit of a smaller profile. Like Kevin McCarthy, I thought was excellent, scoring 3 points from centre forward. Mark McCarthy got himself 2-1, but like Adam Hall, who'd come off the bench and scored 2-3 the last day, and you also have Darren McCarthy, who, to be fair, scored 4 from play and popped over plenty of place balls as well. I just thought it was probably when Adam Hall had worked so well from the bench, and your size profile is a little bit kind of lighter than a seasoned Kildangan team, maybe they could have kept one of the younger lads on the bench and sprung him and had a bit more of a seasoned player in the starting lineup. But to be honest, I'm being captain hindsight here, really, but it's certainly something that as the game wore on, you could tell that was an issue for Toom.
Yeah, and obviously they're a common team, same as Roscrea, same as Holy Cross Ballycattle, but they're coming up against a team that's fairly seasoned at this level. Their time will probably come over the next couple of years, and I'm sure Ken Dunn will remain heavily involved. And it's a hell of a lot closer than they've been in the last couple of years anyway. But you'd probably say easily enough on the balance of what we've seen throughout the whole campaign, the two best teams have wound up in the final. And I know Kildangan don't have too many titles on the board, but it is a fairly heavyweight clash. It's a tasty, tasty game. The question asked there, do you think either of the two will go far in Munster? I don't, been honest with you. I don't. I think Ballygunner will be 7 or 8 points better than either of them, and that's been honest. Napier 4 or 5 points better, but hopefully we'll see one of those big clashes down the line either way.
Yeah. So just in terms of what the draw is going to be, let's see. The Waterford champions will have a home fixture against the Cork representatives. The Limerick champions will wait the winners in the semi-final, and then in the other semi-final, the Tipperary champions will host the Clare champions.
Great opportunity there. Like, if you look at it in Clare, you're going to have, relatively new champions, someone who hasn't won it in probably the guts of a decade. So there's going to be a newish face in the Munster final.
Are we saying that Thurles are into a Munster final?
No, I'm not anyway. you
River
might
Powers
be.
is not-
You might be.
yeah,
You'd be very popular around Puck on over the next 2 weeks. I'd say.
yeah. River Powers says, don't see how Thurles can be favourites. Tell us why not. What do you make in terms of Killer One? Well, actually, let's come to their relegation clash. I watched them beat Upperchurch Dunbran 218 to 20 points. And I suppose one of the goals came from Willie Cleary. Who did the other goal come from? I can't remember off the top of my head yourself. You watched so many games over the weekend, hard to keep track. But they were very good. And like, to be fair to Upperchurch, who've done well in championships in recent years, they're not a team that's really a relegation level team. And Killarwan certainly aren't. Obviously, they're the county champions as things stand. Clonolty Rossmore and JK Brackens in the other quarterfinals. So it actually means Brackens against Upperchurch Strumban in the relegation final, which is two teams that are of a pretty good level. Like Brackens were only mid-champions last year, and Clonolty obviously won a county title a few years ago as well. But like these four teams being in relegation, never mind the relegation final, like it just speaks to I think the quality of the championship, maybe somewhat the quirks of the draw as well. But like none of these teams are really relegation level.
Well, you're really bigging up the quality anyway. Either that or it's a lot of teams at the same level. And maybe that level isn't probably, I don't think it's as high as you think it is. I think you're wearing the blue and gold kind of tinted glasses there. There's a lot of teams at a very, very similar level, but that level is, I'd say that level is still a bit off the Limerick Championship, and it's a decent bit off Ballygunner as well. But they'll have to take advantage of the draw either, and they have a potential chance of getting into a Munster final. But I know Adrian McGrath and the boys in Clare would be keen on saying that whoever wins in Clare has equally a great chance of getting through to a Munster final. But I think it's very competitive in Tipperary. And I think there's a lot of teams at a good level, but I don't think there's a lot of teams at a really high level.
Okay, well, we'll see now when Thurles get through to the Munster Championship. I know I'm preempting in a big way there, but I am saying they are my favourites. And, once I back you, you're going all the way.
You're going all the way down. You're sending our love down the well.
Yeah. And it was Seamus Hennessy who scored that other goal for Killarwan McDonough's. Like Jerome Cahill did some nice stuff during that game. Let me see who else was quite good. It's just one of those things. It's so hard to remember.
Jerome Cahill came up last week, Shane, actually, about a player who, remember we were talking about lads that maybe really good club players, but never committed to county or didn't make it a county, and he would definitely be another one, because I'm sure the Tip folk would love to have him talking out with Tipperary, but probably doesn't look like that's going to happen unless there's some sort of a call that Liam Cattle makes to him over the winter and coaxes him in. But inter-county is not for everyone at the minute. It wasn't for everyone 10 or 15 years ago, and it's obviously becoming more and more of a commitment now. So you're probably going to see a good few lads maybe stepping away or not stepping in at all.
River Power says the Dangan have been in 3 out of the last 4 finals. Lads are coming right from injuries. The likes of Willie Connors just feel that Dangan have more goals and scores in them and more ways of playing. Last 4 finals, he says there. Home of hurling. Do you reckon Shinrone or Mount Leinster Rangers can go far in Leinster? So that's kind of suggesting that Shinrone are only waiting to just pick up the cup.
That's very suggestive. I'll reserve judgment until I see the Offaly final. Watch the semi-finals at the weekend. 2 worthy winners on both sides, but Shinrone were pasted by Naas last year in Leinster. So that leaves them well behind the 8 ball in comparison to other teams if they do get out. And I'm sure Kilcormac Kalaki will have a lot to say about that as well. This is a kind of a fun time because there's a hell of a lot of speculation involved. And you're making a lot of predictions of who's going to be who. Like at one stage yesterday, I was thinking, Kilmacroke could be hard bet in Leinster this year. They will be hard bet. Just Ballyhale go out here, they're probably favourites to win Leinster, and all of a sudden they're dumped out. And that's just the way it is. I don't know, Shane. Yesterday, I've had it a couple of times at club games and club Sundays in particular, but there was so many things going on. It's just it's a mad 4 or 5 hours. You're at a game, you're hearing this is going on, you're maybe watching something on Club or on the laptop here, you're hearing a result coming through here. It's an absolutely spellbinding afternoon, just with all these different results coming in. Dunley are out, Crokes are back, Ballyhale are hanging on. Do you know what I mean? It's some way to spend 4 or 5 hours of a Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, it's relentless. Okay, let's talk about the Offaly semi-finals anyway. What was the difference that got Shinrone across the line 119-16 against Ballinamere, and Kilcormac-Callaghy just saw St. Ryan's 22 points to 114? What decided those games?
Yeah, no, I have to say, really fancy Shinrone coming into this game, and I said it on Thursday's show. They just have that bit of experience now. They have that bit of know-how. Did 11 different scores yesterday. Really tight first half. It was 9-8 to Shinrone, and Ballinamere gave as good as they got. They probably would have made some basic enough kind of handling errors, missing a couple of balls here and there, and waiting until the second attempt to get them. Shinrone looked really, really slick. There was a 5-minute period in the second half, I think, where they hit 5 points from play, burst ahead. Ballinamere had a goal chance at one end, half goal chance, thwarted. Eamon Cleary drove the ball down the keeper, landed on the far 21, broke through. Sean Cleary had the shot hooked. Killian Sampson, who was brilliant, I think, finished with 1-3, finished it to the net. And Shinrone are through to back-to-back finals, having not been in one since the 60s. Like, it's amazing, the release valve. You win one, or you win those pressure games, all of a sudden, they're like, and I mean this as a compliment, I wouldn't have trusted Shinrone until last year. I wouldn't have trusted them in a big game. And that's just been honest. Wouldn't have trusted them to finish coming down the home stretch. Now you'd have massive trust in them. And that's why they're going to be really, really hard beaten in the county final. If anything, they're getting better as the championship progresses. Got over us after extra time. As I said, deserved to win after both normal time and extra time, and hung on in extra time. We're comprehensive enough in the wind-up against Ballinamere and finished 6-point winners. Like, that's kind of what I expected. They delivered the type of performance I expected. A couple of big performances and even changes from last year. Conor Dutton is back centre-back. Scored a point from underneath the stand, fallen. If you'd see it on Clubbers, an outrageous score. I'm sure they'll have it out over the next few hours as one of the highlights of the weekend. He was very good. Killian Sampson, very good. Jason Sampson doesn't have to be lighting it up, but is always there and always in the thick of things. So they'll have, we'll preview the final, I'm sure, in a fortnight's time, but they're going to have a big say in that game. Kilcormac and Rhinus, there was a big breeze blowing into the far end in Tullamore. Rhinus were 4 up at the break, having started like a house on fire. They were 1-1 to no score up. Joey O'Connor got a goal. Luke O'Connor got a point. They were 4 up, and it was a real kind of physical game and a clash of styles. Rhinus playing direct, Kilcormac playing through the lines. I'd say Kilcormac got a fair few rockets at half time because they came out a completely different team. To be honest, lacked a bit of work rate, particularly up front in the first half. Came out a different team in the second half completely. And what did they hit? Sure, they had only 8 points on the board at half time, or 7 even. They hit the guts of 14 or 15 in the second half. And kind of one pulling up, despite the fact that Cottle Kiley had a penalty saved by Conor Clancy as well. And Adam Screeney was kept really quiet. Stephen Wynn did a brilliant job on him, kept him to a point. And they won the Senior B on Saturday. And there's this mad possibility, apparently, I don't think it'll happen, that they could have 2 teams Senior A next year. I think they'll request to be regraded and go back Senior B and be without 7 or 8 of those players. Because just think of the logistics of it, Cheno. How do you have 2 teams playing Senior A when the Senior AA team could, like them playing, or the B team that are playing A, like their results could have an effect on the A team getting out of a group, or do you know what I mean? It just doesn't. I don't think that'll be the way it is. I don't know if I know, and if anyone knows of other counties where that's actually happened at senior level, maybe junior level or something like that, or intermediate. I know it's happened with the Tullamore footballers and Offaly. I just don't see that happening. It's too convoluted, and it leaves, not saying that they would or anything, but it leaves the door open for skullduggery, and you don't want that. It probably would test the integrity of the competition. But Kilcormac are in the final, and like Shinrone, they're getting better as the competition goes. And interesting to hear Killian Kiley, who was brilliant at centre-back, scored 3 monster points in the second half. Him and Charlie Mitchell were the 2 main men. Mitchell ended up with 5, Kiley with 5, 3 from play. He spoke after about it being a kind of a revenge mission. Like they could have had Shinrone buried after 20 minutes of the county final last year, probably left about 3-3 behind. And Shinrone went and won the county final, pulling up and won their first. That's what's going to make this really intriguing. And it's back in the home of hurling. First county final in Burr since 2006. I think since the late 40s to 2006, every county final had been played there. Then there was redevelopment work and it went to O'Connor Park. It's back now. Mundy's playing the warm-up act on the pitch half an hour before throwing. What more do you want? One of our most famous sons. I'll be hyping it to the last anyway. I can tell you over the next fortnight.
Well, it's great that Burr aren't playing. That's the main thing.
Good man. You're the wet blanket of the conversation.
Adam Screeney's going to be playing with the UL freshers this year. How's he going to be stopped?
Oh, at fresher level, he's going to be very hard stopped. I think a lot of it is going to be how he's going to be managed and looked after. Like, will he be training much with the UL freshers? Probably not. It's kind of good, to be honest, that he can, in a way that he can't play Fitzgibbon, because then you'd be playing under 20 and you'd be playing senior. They could go into Leinster maybe if they win. You're playing freshers, playing Fitzgibbon. There's be a lot going on. It's probably better for someone like him in particular that would get a lot of traffic on the legs that he won't be able to play Fitzgibbon. But yeah, he'd be a fair weapon at fresher level, and that's like they had that unbelievable team, was it last year as well, with Cottle O'Neill and all those lads. So the conveyor belts are coming fairly strong down in UL, yeah.
Galway, so Thurles beat Castlegar 220-114. Sean O'Hanlon scored 5 points from play. A long-range free was dropped in by Dahi Burke at one stage. That ended up in the net, and Jamie Holland wrapped it up in the dying minutes with the second goal. St. Thomas's beat Capitagle 219-12 points, so a bit of a non-event there, really. Thomas is looking for a sixth in a row. Loughrea beat Clarenbridge. That was 121-216. Jamie Ryan hit 111. He also set up the opening goal for Martin McManus. They were 6 up with 49 minutes to go. But Joshua Ryan, his son of former Galway star Éanna Ryan, he helped to cut the lead. Evan Nyland hit 110, but not good enough for Clarenbridge, who, you know, they're supposed to be a coming side, but we're still waiting for them to come. And then the other match, Sarsfield's 324, Ormore Marie 12 points. Kevin Cooney led the way there with 211, so that was pretty comprehensive. And it all means that the semi-final draw is Thomas's against Sarsfield's, Thurles against Loughrea. In Cork, then the semi-final.
Just a quick one, Shane, quickly there. Just wanted to come in, and John Kwan has kind of preempted me. He said, special mention to the evergreen Ger Farrer, who was very good in the freeze and also scored 3 sidelines against Thurles. 40 is the new 35. Like, one of them he put over it must have been 90 yards out. Like, it's an amazing, like, I've said this to you several times. If you're able to hit a free or a line ball, you can stay hurling until the hurler is nearly holding you up. Like, as long as you're able to do that and you're able to call on a lad like that, he'll always be of some use at some level until he's literally not hurling anymore. Something I saw in Galway that I didn't like as well. I haven't seen it in a while, but a couple of an incident with a keeper been really reckless in a tackle coming out to a forward who was going to score a goal. Been really, really dangerous. It was something kind of that was highlighted in Offaly a couple of years ago, and it's stopped ever since because referees kind of clamped down on it. But really kind of dangerous play that I didn't like to see, by a keeper coming out and just kind of basically railroading a forward that was coming in when he knew he was going to get a strike on goal. Wouldn't be happy seeing that. Just on Loughrea as well, Jamie Ryan finished with 11 points. He set up the goal. I know he's been around the block a while, but you'd imagine he's going to get a chance with Galway at some stage. You'd imagine Shefflin's going to shake it up even a bit more, and that he's going to get a run out there. With Eamon O'Shea coming in, and even with Johnny O'Connor coming in as S&C, there's a nice little shake-up in the backroom team. So I'd imagine to be a good few new faces on the squad as well. And as regards Sarsfields, they're coming in to play Thomas's in that semi-final in some vein of form, because they laid waste to Ormore Marie yesterday. And Kevin Cooney's obviously continuing his county form at club level as well. 2 really interesting semi-finals, 2 difficult semi-finals to call. You'd be a brave man to call either of them convincingly at this stage.
Yeah, then the Cork hurling semi-final. Sarsfield's 123 and McKilly 25. So that's 1 point separating them after extra time. 5 extra time points from cornerback Cathal McCarthy.
Outrageous.
Believe it or not. So that's Sars back into the final for the first time since 2015. Aaron Myers, he scored 7 points, and we already mentioned McCarthy. Elliott scored a goal on the other side in McKilly. They'll be very disappointed with that. Middleton 117, St. Finbarr's 18. So a lot of the times the team that goes straight through to the quarter or to the semi-final haven't finished top of their group with the best record. they're waiting in the wings for a month, and they tend to be under. But fair play to Middleton, who had injury concerns over the likes of Conor Lahan coming into the game. He managed to get himself 9 points. 7 of those were from place balls. Cormac Basang scored 1-1. They're back into the final and defeated St. Finbarrs, who are the champions on the way. Hurling 1, 2, 3, 4 says, don't know how Finbarrs didn't win. They had 4 gilt-edge goal chances that they had to score. Middleton with a lucky one. Will Buckley and Ethan Toomey with 6 from play from midfield really led them.
This is a really disappointing one from Finbar's point of view. It's the one that got away, really. And I know of 2 men anyway that they let down for significant amounts of money over the weekend. One fella just had them to get through to the final as part of a big accumulator, and another fella just had them to win yesterday. But like Jesus, as one of the viewers says there, on paper, like their team is absolutely stacked. And I thought, if any team was going to do back to back, that they would. So to be disappointed, yeah, Jesus, like for the talent that they have, and Middleton are a very good side, obviously, but they got that goal late on, and it's funny, a team gets a goal maybe against the run of play, the Bars left 3 or 4 goals behind them. Really disappointing from their point of view.
Yeah, as SSRI says, there is football holding Finbarrs back. I mean, we seem to have a little running theme of dual teams losing here.
I don't know. Doesn't seem to bother Schlockneil anyway. So yeah. I don't know really. Yeah, it's mad how that seems to have all happened this weekend. Maybe being a duel is bothering Kilmacud Crokes as well. You just don't know. Maybe that's why they're beating in the hurling. I'm tongue in cheek. That's not true.
Yeah. And looking at that Finbarrs team, so Ben Cunningham, who we've talked about a lot, he got 1 point from play and 5 from place balls. Conor Cahalane got a couple, and I'm not seeing scores there for too many of the other forwards, lads who would have been well talked about. So, you'd have to give credit to, was it the Premier A or Senior A semi-finals anyway, a level below the top level in Cork. Carricktuhill, they were beaten by Newcestown. That was 2-14 to 1-14. And then in the other semi-final, Bride Rovers beat Blarney on penalties, 3-2. It was 123 to 26 points. God, I love penalties. Give me more of them.
I gathered that if you were manager of a team that exited the championship after you putting blood, sweat, and tears into it, and you exited on penalties, I don't know if you'd love them as much. But listen,
yeah, look, this has to change. I'd be saying, Armagh, the semi-finals there. Middletown, they beat Cuchulainn 24 to 1-14. Keady 3-19. Derry Noose 3-11. The quarterfinals in Limerick then. So Doon had a 125 to 21 points win over Mungret St. Paul's. And then the other semi-final, Ballybrown 117, Patrickswell 417. I don't know if you saw that goal late on when Cian Lynch set up Aaron Gallan, and he pile-drived one into the top corner from somewhere, I think, between the 14 and the 21. Like, they're humming nicely now coming into the latter stages with Napierchik and Kilmallock already in the semi.
Yeah, Patrickswell survived. That was obviously a parish derby with Ballybrown. I think it was 1-16 apiece with about 7 or 8 minutes of normal time to go. Then a ball broke through and Cian Lynch took it to the net. They got another goal thereafter, and then Lynch set up that was a ridiculous goal by Aaron Gallan off. I think it was off his right as well, which is unusual, obviously, for him because it's usually off the left. From a Doon point of view, I know Doon have been in around finals in the last couple of years, but given what they're missing, getting back to a semi-final is a fair achievement for Fergie O'Loughlin, who only took them over in June, I think. Adam English was clearly injured throughout the game, and even when he got the goal, he completely pulled up thereafter, but he was brilliant at different stages throughout the game. And that's the end of the season for Mungret St. Paul's, but they're obviously promoted to Senior A for next year, and it's been a very good year. And same with Ballybrown. Both lost obviously at the weekend, but didn't lose much in defeat, and still very encouraging years. Both very, very competitive with two of the bigger hitters in Limerick.
And Joe, at ML89, he's questioning your thoughts in terms of how the duel doesn't hurt certain clubs like Schlockneil. And he said, Schlockneil final they did make, playing devil's advocate, of course, great club. And Mark Coleman, according to Catnap, he played a full game and extra time and penalties for Blarney. He hasn't lost his touch, looking great. So obviously Pat Ryan will be mad to get him back next year. Tip for today from the home of hurling. 8 Cree Corca in the 450 in...
That's a first. That's the first. I don't think we've ever gotten a viewer giving a tip for a horse. I tipped Matt Connor in here one time successfully, all right, but I don't think. What was it? Number 8, Corkra, 450 at Ferryhouse. The Ferryhouse only out the road. Depending on how my work goes, maybe I'll go out for a look. And I'll be looking at Corka.
Yeah, that's Purple Heart, isn't it?
Corka. Not 100% sure. I'd be happy enough with me Gaelga now a lot of the time, but I'm not sure that on my colours. I'd only know Dove, Glass, Darragh, Bawn, etc.
Yeah, it's Corka. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Bright Rovers had 8 players that are 19 and 18 years of old. They're so young. Only 2 players over the age of 23. Each team who plays senior football and Tip last weekend lost to hurling this weekend. Dual clubs for the L. So so that's the state of play. Dublin quarterfinals over the weekend. So I was watching these games quite closely. Ballyboden St. Enda's beat Coola. It was 225 to 121. So 7 points between the teams for a finish. But Boden were 12 points ahead early in the game. Coola had an absolute mare at the start of this. Looked a mile off it. But to be fair to Ballyboden, you have to give him huge credit. I thought Kevin Desmond was really dangerous running through with the ball. Paul Ryan, he scored 111 through the course of the game. He got that early goal, as did Pierce Christie, who was quite good also. Shane Durkin got a couple of points straight off the bat. Luke McDwyer in the half-forward line had a nice bit of pace. Niall McMorrow, he popped up with a couple of points at different stages. And just like Ballyboden got those nice few points ahead and then just held Coola at arm's length for the rest of the game. Didn't do anything stupid. Yes, Coola, and that was through Colin Cronin, surprise, who else? But just Coola were always just a little bit off it. Made 2 substitutions early in the game, taking off John Shannon and Killian Shannon. Then made another switch at half time. And what I couldn't understand is, and look, it's easy, again, be Captain Hindsight here. You don't know what's going on in training. Genuinely, I don't know what's going on in training. And you don't know about injuries and all that kind of stuff. But 2 of the players and I saw them in the first group stage game against Lucan earlier this year. I think it was Lucan. No, sorry, was it St. Bridget's? Either way, Jamie Conroy, good young player, and Conal O'Toole, good young player. They both had really fine seasons from what I've seen. And I haven't seen every minute of every game, but I've seen a nice bit. And the 2 of them weren't starting. And you're like, your bit of pace, energy, and drive, the thing that actually put Boden in such good position in the game, you're like, why not start these 2 lads? The 2 of them came on. And like, they're both well filled out players. I know I kind of said the flip side with Tumivara earlier on, but those players aren't like overly physical. You know, these 2 players are well filled out. They've got that bit of pace, drive, dynamism. And I just thought it was a little bit strange not to start. You know, not only did you not start either, but didn't start both. And Jamie Conroy on and scored 3 points. He was very good. And so it was a day of big frustration watching this game. I have to say, really, really frustrated. I want to give credit, and I have, by pointing out all the players who really stepped up. But it was just a frustrating one to watch for me.
Yeah, it is frustrating to watch your own club when you're not involved, and maybe you see things happening that maybe shouldn't be happening or whatever. But they left themselves with a mountain to climb, and they weren't able to climb it. There's no point in saying any different. That goal was put on lovely for Paul Ryan, lovely little finish, and they were 7 points winners in the end from what I saw. Like, pretty deserving as well. Comprehensive winners. As I said, Paul Ryan finished at 111, 8 frees and a sideline cut. Shane Durkin, very good. Niall McMorrow, the same as well. Conor Callan played, obviously, for Coola, his first game of the year. Got 2 points. Didn't look the sharp Conor Callan that we'd see if he had 3 or 4 months of hurling under his belt. Went off with a nasty-looking injury as well. What looked like a shoulder injury. Looked kind of nasty enough. He looked in a lot of pain, and I believe he's heading off on his travels for a couple of months before rejoining the Dublin Senior Football panel early in the new year as well. But Ballyboden, much the better team there by all accounts.
Yeah, definitely. And like, they just have a nice bit of pace in the team. And the semi-final draw at this stage is Lucan against Nafina and St. Vincent's against Ballyboden. So like Nafina, like, we tipped up, I mean, again, we put the hex on a team here, but we had tipped up Kilmacud Crokes to beat Nafina in that quarter final. And we were thinking, right, Donald Burke is out for Nafina. There's no, like, and he's such a talisman. There's no way they're going to beat Kilmacud Crokes here. And of course, like part of it was we said, like AJ Murphy's really going to have to rip it up here if
you
Fina are
said
going to win
that.
this
I
game.
remember I watched the highlights of the game after, and I remember saying that was your caveat. AJ Murphy will have to have a game of games, and fair to him, he did.
He scored 3-3. He's a very talented player. Like I've always kind of had good time for him, but he scored 3 points. And you actually said the Currys are going to have to play well as well. Colin Curry, he scored 3 from play and 4 frees or 4 place balls. Sean Curry, he scored a lovely ball for AJ Murphy late on to get that goal that sort of secured it. Shane Barrett, he scored a goal. What a performance there. It was only Crokes getting a goal, I think, in garbage time through Ronan Hayes that brought the scoreline back to, it was very respectable anyway, but just brought it back a little bit, made it seem closer than it probably was. Nafina 4-15, Crokes 1-22. There was injuries for both teams early on in this game. Alex Considine, he went off early for Crokes. Nafina, they had to lose both John Tierney and Conor McHugh, who's been very good for them, dual player the last couple of years. The dual thing again, is it because, he's playing in both codes over? I don't know. But Liam Rush been back at 6, or just been brought back at 6. So that's county finals. This is huge now, Nafina semi-final against Lucan Sarsfield, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry, I lost you halfway through that, but it is a massive, like to win that game without Donald Burke and take down the 3 in a row chasing reigning champions. It's massive. But the thing is, you're looking at the semi-finals now, and you're kind of thinking the door is still open for 4 teams here. Like you couldn't confidently call who's going to win the championship from here on in. You really couldn't. And just based on what I've seen and the impression I'm getting, something just tells me that Vincent's could be hard beaten. Under Pat Gilroy, just from what I've seen so far. And once Bowden get to this stage, they're always very, very hard beaten. And it's going to be a big physical encounter between them and Lucan, who are obviously managed by Charlie Carter. And as you said before, Philip Lanigan at the Mail, well-known journalist, he's involved with Lucan. Originally a Lucan man, Shane, which I found out. I didn't realise that. So he's going back to his home neck of the woods. But 2 fascinating semi-finals in store there. Crokes will be sick enough though. They lost Considine early, couldn't start Ronan Hayes. But as you say, on the flip of that, I'm just wondering whether Conor McHugh is going to miss the semi-final, whether they're going to have their own couple of injuries that they probably can't afford. With Donald Burke been out, they can't really afford to be missing another big man for a semi-final. And I just hope it's not the case of Nafina taking down the big gun and then not being able to go and finish the job. Like Kilmacud beat them in the last 2 finals, very tight. Should have beaten them in 2021. It was 3 points last year, I think. I hope it's not the case that they've taken out the big gun and then that they'll be taken out for their sake, if you get me.
I see John Kwan here saying Nafina are a bit like Shane's Wi-Fi connection today, unreliable. I've actually got the network cable plugged in because when it's windy and a little bit whatever. So that's very frustrating, I have to say now, if it's not coming through loud and clear to you. Is Vernie coming through okay? Is it just me?
No, I think I'm okay. You're not even coming through to me that well. As you said, when there's a bit of wind, it's the same as like on a hurling pitch. When the going gets tough, the tough get running. you're not performing to your best today. But everyone has an off day from time to time.
Richard Hogan asked, do Vincents have Diarmid? I presume he means Connolly hurling this year. They do. And being honest, we know he's a very good hurler, but hasn't been playing well for my money. But they do have the McBrides playing, like Reem McBride. I think he'd been out of it for a while, but he's back in. They're humming very, very nicely. And obviously with John Heatherton up at the spear, the attack, I think they'll be hard beaten as well. I'm very much inclined to agree with you there. So I actually watched a couple of the Dublin 2 semi-finals as well. I was doing the co-commentary with Dubs GA TV. St. Jude's and Crave, they beat Castleknock and Thomas Davis respectively, and they'll be up in the semi-finals against Nave Brogue and Ballyboden's second team. And you kind of mentioned earlier that goal that Conor Murray scored for Castleknock. Like he was at a ridiculously tight angle and he managed to blast a brilliant goal into the back.
Find that if just Google Conor Murray or put him into X, and anybody that's watching, it's worth seeing that goal. Like not in a month of Sundays does it look like a goal is on. Like it just does not. The angle is extraordinarily tight. It was an amazing finish.
Yeah, and I thought Crave were quite good in the first game. Paul Kelly, he was excellent. He scored 4 points. Billy was excellent. He was kind of playing on the inside line where number 9 scored 1-3, albeit the 3 points were from frees. Robbie, a lot of players really stepped up, I felt, in that game for Crave Kieran and St. Jude's. For mine, not really a senior team. They should be up at the top level, and maybe just the fact that two teams get relegated every year is a bit of a quirk, because they could have been in the semi-final a couple of years ago. Danny Sutcliffe was very good, but he did his best stuff, believe it or not, when he was playing in the full forward line. Now, David Bowe very well when we were out the field, but when we go, I felt that was where he was at his best. And we saw him very good there for Dublin this year against Clare down at the Gaelic grounds, and obviously Dublin got hammered. But he was quite good on the inside line here, and that might be something that Dublin do again next year.
Yeah, someone said to me yesterday, tongue in cheek or otherwise, that Micheál Donoghue might have been the happiest man coming out of Parnell Park yesterday, with the Crokes maybe not going on a long run and seeing a lot of other players that he did see over the weekend. The fact that he'll have all access to the vast majority of guys nearly straight away from the off. But that was again, I said, somewhat tongue in cheek. Just fly through a couple of the other quick championships. As I said, there was drama everywhere. Easky made it 4 in a row in the Sligo hurling championship final. They beat Naivone. It finished 22 points to 115. They were obviously in the All-Ireland Junior final earlier on this year, beating in it Andrew Kilcullen, always the main man for them. Big drama in London as well. My old buddy from Burr, Neil Rogers, over St. Gabriel's, they fell to Robert Emmets. It finished 226 to 323 after extra time, and Robert Emmets won 2-1 on penalties. As I said, I don't like it as a way to exit a championship. But the Emmets are through. That was always going to be a tight game. They'll play the Brother Pierces, who also had a tally at 323. They beat Thomas McCurtain's 323 to 314. So Robert Emmets and Brother Pierces in the final there. Roscommon final was also on over the weekend. 4 Roads, traditional powerhouse in Roscommon. They had a comprehensive enough victory over Athleague. It finished 26 points to 212.